Okay, and hello and welcome to this episode of the Lehigh Valley with Love podcast. We're here with Jay Nee of Juniper and Grain to discuss the upcoming Ginvintational taking place on June 4th at SteelStacks. Jay, it looks like you're having your own Ginvintational where you are. How's it going?
Well, we call this research and development. Yeah, we're doing well, George. Thanks for having me. Very excited to be back for our second installment of the Ginvintational. So
yeah, a lot of research, probably not a lot of development. If I was down in that man cave, it looks great. But this is kind of your life. I want to learn more about what Juniper and Grain is, and how did you get involved with it? If you could kind of give us your little story.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I've been in kind of the adult beverage industry, selling and helping to develop for the last 15 or so years. From a lifelong interest in, I grew up just outside of Boston, so had the craft beer movement and all of the craft spirits movement. So it's been kind of a lifelong interest as long as I've been legally able to drink alcohol. And it's just been fun to explore. Last 15 or so years professionally, I've been doing it from a sales and consulting standpoint. So Juniper and Grain came of that passion in 2019. I went out on my own and consult with restaurants in PA and help develop brands that are smaller brands that are trying to get route to market strategies, et cetera. So
sure. That's interesting. So, like, do you kind of go into some of these restaurants and have discussions with them on what they should be stocking and what they shouldn't be, depending on the type of people, where they are, what type of people come in there?
Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, and certainly that taking into account what the guest experience is going to be like. One of the things that I've kind of always spoken to is finding balance in your beverage program. There's many concepts out there that are so heavily cocktail driven or so heavily beer driven, and they're leaving out the other categories that would make it more comfortable for a larger group. And you have a whole bunch of beer aficionados that have friends that are coming along that would much rather have a nice glass of wine. So finding balance has always been kind of the theme that I try and work with. So yeah.
What's like the hot alcohol of the moment? Well, I mean, I remember there was a period of time, or maybe it's still now, where gin was making a return, hence the Ginvintational as well. But is there like a hot spirit of the moment or the summer?
Yeah, I think agave-based spirits, so mezcal, tequila, are still having their moment. As you get into the summer, we get away from kind of the height of brown spirits, so the bourbons and the whiskeys, but they still will always find a way, and you just refresh them with brighter acidity on those cocktails if you're a real bourbon fan or a whiskey fan. Gin, certainly, as we get into the summer, that's always the goal. But mezcal is definitely seeing its strongest as an agave spirit. That smokiness, just a little bit more complex than many tequilas out there. And certainly all of the celebrities that have their own brands right now, you can't get away from them. So.
Right. And for me, it's so interesting because you talked about the craft beer movement, which is still wildly popular. And craft spirits are interesting because you have your favorites, but there's so much nuance, right, to all these different brands and where they come from. Is that one of the fun things you get to do, is explain some of that to people? And this is how we can we'll talk about the Ginvintational after this, but
it's not only just explaining, but the nuance, you actually nail it on the head. It is about nuance, and it's exploring and explaining, right? Those are the things that we look at. Taking classic cocktails that have been around for 100 years and doing riffs on that. That's what some of our best, the mixologists that are going to be doing the seminars at the Ginvintational. But in general, one of the things that really good mixologists do is they learn the basics of real classic cocktails, and then they explore to find that right spirit or that right aromatic that will actually punch it up and just do a twist. or do a riff on a classic. And I find that that's when people are most open, because they've heard of a type of cocktail, and it's like, oh, I now trust this mixologist to do something different that's going to open my eyes. And that's been the fun part working with the guys that we're working with. So.
Yeah, it's funny because you are doing R&D down there. You're like, okay, I've had a little bit of this, a little bit of that,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
and you come out and you're like, guys, I found it, right? Like, that's a lot of fun, and this is kind of what the spirit of the Ginvintational is about. So, can you give us the elevator pitch here? Tell us about the event that's taking place on June 4th at SteelStacks in Bethlehem.
At SteelStacks, yes, it is a cocktail culture celebration. So it's called Ginvitational. It is gin forward, but it is not gin exclusive. We have every spirit that you can think of under the sun that's going to be here. We actually speak to many of them during a number of our seminars. It is really about exploring so that you, as the guest, the visitor, can actually go home with hopefully some new skills to elevate your own entertainment capacity for your friends and family when you have people over. So the idea is to explore. We're going to have over 100 spirits to be tasted. I'm not going to recommend you taste all of them all during those hours, right? However, but with that number of spirits available, you're bound to find something that you've never had before. And the idea is to have an oh wow moment that makes you steer away from something that you've just kind of always landed on and just always ordered. You don't even give thought to it. Giving thought to it will open up better experiences for everybody. And that's kind of the fun that we're looking for. So.
Sure. And I would imagine too, it's just getting around some like-minded people who are also interested in this is always, a fun time as well. I would imagine the atmosphere is pretty jovial.
It is. There's lots of smiles on faces, and finding like-minded people is great. The what I got for feedback for the participants, for the vendors that were here last year, what they were really excited about is that it wasn't like the cattle calls that a lot of these other tasting events are about. They actually had ability to interact a little bit with people, and people were asking questions. And it's just a great way to kind of explore. And again, in a tasting environment, you get to taste a number of things that you didn't have to spend $12 on a cocktail and find out that you didn't like it. So it's a low risk, high reward for taking stuff off into your future.
So do you have an example or like a favorite type of craft spirit fact or education that you like to give, like maybe a little taste of what people can expect at the Ginvitational?
Sure. I'll give you one thing right off the bat for people that are not big fans of gin, and part of it is that Juniper forward idea. Maybe it's a little too piney. Now, what has evolved is that Juniper appears in gin, but all of the other aromatics are what we're now seeing the artistry of those distillers actually playing with. So it's gets much further away, and think of it like a vodka with more complexity. If you're a vodka drinker, think of gin and think of the aromatics and the play on that. One thing that I just love to experience just in general is adding really good citrus, especially during the summer. It's bright, fresh citrus. That type of acidity in most cocktails will really punch up something and punch up flavor. It'll be refreshing, but it'll also really elevate a lot of what you're experiencing flavor-wise. So.
That's great. I mean, you make me want to try gin again. So I.
If you have a bad gin story, that's what we try and steer you away from.
I don't have a bad gin story. I think I have like a bad tequila story because tequila is my
everybody does.
Like, I'm okay. I can skip that usually. But you're right in the sense that they do. I've had some tequilas where when you are kind of instructed to look at what you're tasting, I guess not look at it, but really think about what you're tasting as you're tasting it. You can get the same thing as if you're tasting a beer and getting all those different hints and aromatics, like you said. So it's really interesting world, and it's one of those ones too. I think the more knowledge you have on it, the more social cachet you have. You're fun at parties. You get to mix drinks, and people really enjoy it. So
yeah, absolutely.
It's something that I always look forward to. So Jake, how do we get more information? Clearly, we can go to SteelStacks.org, but do you have any other info you want to tell us?
Yeah, so sure. SteelStacks.org is where you're going to go. The event itself, again, is June 4th. For VIP, we actually have a VIP-only seminar beforehand. That is fantastic. Our partners with Edrington Americas are actually providing branded shaker cans for VIP. It's worth it just for that as the increase, but that seminar is fantastic, as well as VIP only spirits for an extra hour of tasting. We have some of the area's best restaurants that are also going to be participating this year, which is another added over what we did last year. So it's just bigger and better. And actually more affordable. We lowered the price a little bit because the idea for us was not to have this be so exclusive. We wanted it to be something that you had to have a target. You want to get something out of it for you as the visitor, but really we wanted to make it accessible to so many people. And just to have a really good time. Our friends with the Nightlighters are DJing. They'll be doing a bunch of soul music. They're great. They do a lot of stuff down on the campus. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, no, it's definitely interesting. I mean, can you maybe talk about people who are like, well, I don't know enough about it. I'm not into spirits that way. Like, isn't this an opportunity to maybe dip your toe in it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you ever have had a cocktail and you're wondering where did this kind of originate, we'll be able to answer that. So we have seminars throughout the day. We have 6 of the area's best mixologists that will actually be leading our visitors through multiple seminars going throughout the day. We have a great seminar just telling you about the science of ice and why would you do a spherical ice ball as opposed to ice cubes, and why would you crush? Why would you shake versus stirring? These are all things that you don't necessarily think about, but they actually have an impact on the final drink. And when you get to try them side by side and see how shaking something violently will dilute a drink versus stirring it gently, it's pretty impactful.
See, James Bond had it all figured out.
Exactly. We will have a Vesper as part of the VIP. Yeah, absolutely.
That's worth it on its own. That's pretty cool. So,
absolutely.
Jake, thank you so much. We're looking forward to it. The Ginvintational on June 4th at SteelStacks. For more information, just hit up SteelStacks.org. It's probably the easiest way to get more information on it. I just want to say a quick thank you to our sponsors, Molly's Irish Grill and Sports Pub, Wind Creek Event Center, WXPN 88.5 FM, and of course, Michael Bernardin with Remax. Find Mike. And Jake, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, it was fun. It feels it's so funny. It feels like yesterday that we were recording that video for last year, and it's like back again. Well, it's a good thing. And you're year 2. You made it. You're not coming back for year 2 if year 1 wasn't good. So we're looking forward to it, and all the best of luck.
Bigger and better. Hope to see you there. Thank you so much, George. And hopefully we'll see everybody there. And feel free to look for me. I'll be the one running around with my head cut off. So. All right. Cheers.
All right. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.